The lock clicks louder than it should, sharp and final, echoing through the dim room like a gunshot. Open it. Jungkook freezes, his hand still gripping the cold metal doorknob. The faint city lights bleed through the curtains, casting fractured shadows across his face. His chest rises and falls unevenly, like he's been running, like he's still trying to escape something that hasn't stopped chasing him. Behind him, Jimin stands with his back against the door, fingers trembling slightly where they still rest on the lock. His breath is shallow, uneven, as if every second stretches too long inside his lungs. "You can't just lock me in here," Jungkook says, voice low but strained, the kind of calm that cracks if pushed too far. "Move." The silence between them thickens, heavy with everything unspoken. Air smells faintly of rain drifting in from the cracked window, mixed with something warmer, familiar like fabric softener and lingering cologne. "I said move," Jungkook repeats, sharper this time. Still, Jimin doesn't move. Instead, he steps closer. The distance shrinks until it's unbearable. "Why are you leaving?" Jimin asks, his voice quieter now but somehow more dangerous. Not loud, not angry, just raw. Jungkook exhales sharply, dragging a hand through his hair. "You already know why. Say it." "No." "Say it," Jimin insists, his voice trembling now, barely holding together. "Because if you walk out that door without saying it, I swear You'll what?" Jungkook snaps, turning around fully now. His eyes flash, dark and restless. "What are you going to do, Jimin? Lock every door I try to walk through, if I have to." The words come out too fast, too honest, and suddenly the room feels smaller. Jungkook stares at him like he doesn't recognize him anymore. Or maybe like he does, and that's the problem. "You've lost it," Jungkook mutters, shaking his head. "Maybe I have," Jimin replies, his lips curving into something that isn't quite a smile. "But not about this." A flicker of something passes through Jungkook's eyes, hesitation maybe, or guilt. Jimin notices. Of course he does, he always notices. "You think I didn't see it?" Jimin continues, stepping closer again. "The way you've been avoiding me. The way you won't even look at me anymore unless you think I won't notice." Looks away, that's answer enough. "You don't get to do that," Jimin says, his voice breaking now despite his effort to stay steady. "You don't get to act like none of this means anything after everything, after all of it." "Stop," Jungkook whispers. "No, Jimin, no, you don't get to shut this down." His hands ball into fists at his sides. "Not this time." The rain outside grows heavier, tapping insistently against the window like it's trying to get in. Jungkook exhales, long and slow, like he's trying to steady himself. But his shoulders are tense, his jaw tight. "You're making this harder than it needs to be," he says. Jimin laughs softly, but there's no humor in it. "Harder," he echoes. "You're the one leaving without even telling me why, and I'm the one making it hard." Jungkook doesn't respond, because he can't. Because the truth is sitting right there between them, sharp and unavoidable. "You're scared," Jimin says quietly. That gets a reaction. Jungkook's eyes snap back to him, something fierce and defensive igniting behind them. "I'm not scared." "Yes, you are." "Not." "You are," Jimin insists, stepping even closer until there's barely any space left between them. "You're scared of this, of me, of what this means." Jungkook's breath catches just for a second. Jimin sees it. And that's when something inside him finally breaks. "Fine," he says, voice suddenly steady in a way that feels dangerous. "Then I'll say it." Jungkook stiffens. "Jimin, don't." Jimin doesn't stop. "I love you." Words hang in the air, heavy and irreversible. Everything goes still. Even the rain seems quieter. Jungkook stares at him like the world just shifted beneath his feet, like something he's been holding back for too long is finally spilling over. "You don't mean that," Jungkook says, but his voice is weaker now, uncertain. "I do. No. Yes, you're confused." "Not confused," Jimin snaps, frustration bleeding through again. "I know exactly what I feel." Jungkook shakes his head, backing away slightly until his shoulders hit the wall. There's nowhere left to go. "This isn't," he starts, then stops, like he doesn't even know how to finish the sentence. "This is what?" Jimin presses. "Real, allowed, convenient. It's complicated." "It's not," Jimin says softly. "It's actually really simple." Lets out a hollow laugh. "Nothing about this is simple." "Then why can't you deny it?" That hits harder than anything else. Jungkook goes quiet, too quiet. Jimin steps closer again, slower this time, more careful, like approaching something fragile. "Look at me," he murmurs. Jungkook hesitates, then slowly he does, and everything unravels in that moment, because whatever he's been trying to hide, it's all there. In the way his eyes linger just a second too long, in the way his breath falters, in the way he doesn't move away. "You feel it too," Jimin whispers. Jungkook doesn't answer. He doesn't need to. Jimin's hand lifts, hesitant at first, before resting lightly against Jungkook's wrist. The contact is soft, almost tentative, but it sends something electric through both of them. "Tell me to stop," Jimin says, his voice barely above a breath. Jungkook's lips part, but no words come out. That's all the permission Jimin needs. He closes the distance. The kiss isn't gentle, it's desperate, messy, long overdue. Jungkook stiffens at first, caught off guard, but it doesn't last. Because something inside him snaps too, something he's been holding back for far too long. His hand grips Jimin's shirt, pulling him closer instead of pushing him away. And suddenly there's no space left for denial, no room for running, only this, only them. The rain continues to fall outside, relentless and steady, as if the world itself refuses to interrupt what's finally, inevitably happening behind that locked door. And for the first time that night, Jungkook stops trying to leave. Jungkook doesn't realize when his grip tightens. It happens instinctively, like his body chooses before his mind can catch up, fingers clutching the fabric of Jimin's shirt, as if letting go would send everything crashing back into silence again. The kiss deepens, not because it's planned, not because either of them knows what they're doing, but because stopping feels impossible now. Jimin's breath trembles against him. There's something fragile beneath the urgency, something almost breaking, like he's been holding this in for far too long, and now that it's out, he doesn't know how to contain it. Jungkook pulls back first, not far, just enough for their foreheads to nearly touch, for their breaths to collide in uneven bursts. This. Jungkook starts, but his voice fails him. He swallows, eyes flickering down for a second before forcing himself to look back up. This doesn't fix anything. Lets out a soft, shaky laugh. I didn't do it to fix anything. Then why? Because you were leaving. There's no hesitation in his answer. That's what makes it dangerous. Jungkook's jaw tightens. He steps back now, just one step, but it feels like a crack forming between them. His hand lingers for a second longer on Jimin's sleeve before dropping to his side. I still am, he says quietly. The words land harder than before because now they mean something different. Jimin doesn't move this time. He doesn't chase him, doesn't close the distance again. He just stands there, chest rising and falling, trying to steady something inside himself that refuses to settle. Then why didn't you stop me? Jungkook asks suddenly. Jimin blinks, caught off guard. What? Back then? Jungkook continues, voice tightening, frustration bleeding through again. You always say you knew, you always say you saw everything, so why didn't you stop me then? The question hangs between them, sharp and accusing. Jimin exhales slowly, his gaze dropping for a moment before lifting again. Because I thought you needed to go. Lets out a hollow laugh. Needed to. You were suffocating, Jimin says, softer now. Not because of me, because of everything. The pressure, the expectations, the way you kept pretending you were fine when you were. His fingers curl slightly, like he's holding onto something invisible. I didn't want to be another reason you felt trapped. So you just let me walk away. Jungkook's voice cracks just slightly. Without saying anything, I was scared. That makes Jungkook pause. Jimin looks at him, then really looks at him, and there's no hiding left in his expression now. No deflection, no jokes, just something raw and unguarded. I was scared that if I said it, Jimin continues, his voice quieter now, you'd hate me for it. That I'd lose you completely instead of just slowly. The room falls silent again, but it's a different kind of silence this time, heavier, honest. Jungkook runs a hand through his hair, packing once across the small space before stopping again. The walls feel closer than before, like they're listening, like they're trapping every word inside. You didn't lose me, Jungkook mutters. Jimin doesn't respond. Because they both know that's not entirely true. You just never had me the way you wanted, Jungkook adds, quieter now, Jimin's lips pressed together. That's not fair, he says, isn't it? You think I didn't try to ignore it? Jimin's voice sharpens again, emotion creeping back in. You think I want it to feel like this? Every time you smiled at someone else, every time you looked at me like I was just another person in the room. You weren't. Then what was I? Jimin demands. Jungkook opens his mouth, closes it, because he doesn't know how to answer that without unraveling everything again. Jimin lets out a breath that sounds almost like a laugh, but it's tired, worn down by too many nights of thinking the same thoughts over and over again. See, he says softly, that's the problem. Jungkook steps closer again without realizing it, or maybe he does. I didn't know what to call it, he admits, the words reluctant, like they've been dragged out of him. I still don't. Jimin's eyes flicker with something, hope maybe, or something dangerously close to it. You don't have to call it anything, he says, just don't run from it. Not running. You were literally at the door. Jungkook exhales sharply. That's not what I meant. Then what do you mean? Another pause, longer this time. Jungkook looks at the door, then back at Jimin, like he's caught between two different versions of himself, one that leaves and one that stays. I don't know how to stay, he says finally. That hits deeper than anything else tonight. Jimin's expression softens just slightly. You don't have to figure it out all at once, he murmurs. Jungkook shakes his head. You make it sound easy. It's not easy, Jimin admits. It's terrifying. Then why are you so calm about it? Not calm, Jimin says, a small, almost disbelieving smile forming on his lips. I just decided I'd rather be terrified with you than safe without you. The words settle into the space between them, warm and dangerous all at once. Jungkook looks at him like he's trying to memorize that sentence, like it means more than it should. You're really not going to unlock that door, are you? Jungkook asks after a moment. Jimin glances back at it, then shrugs lightly. Not yet. Jungkook lets out a quiet laugh, softer than before, something loosening in his chest despite everything. You're unbelievable. I know. Step forward, closer again, not rush this time. Intentional, Jungkook stops just in front of him, close enough to feel the warmth of his breath again, but not close enough to touch, not yet. This doesn't magically fix things, Jungkook says again, quieter now but less defensive. I know, I might still leave. I know, I might mess this up. Smiles faintly. You definitely will. That earns him a small, breathless laugh from Jungkook, and something shifts, subtle but real. Then why are you still standing here? Jungkook asks. Jimin doesn't hesitate this time. Because you are. Answer is simple, but it lands like everything. Jungkook's gaze softens, the tension in his shoulders easing just slightly as he closes the last bit of distance between them again. Not desperate like before, not rushed, just steady. His hand lifts, hesitates for a fraction of a second, then gently brushes against Jimin's wrist, a quiet echo of earlier. Stay, Jimin whispers. Jungkook closes his eyes for a moment, just a moment. As if weighing something only he can feel, when he opens them again, there's still uncertainty there. Still fear, still too many unanswered questions, but there's something else now too, something that wasn't there before. I'll try, he says, and somehow that feels like the beginning of everything.
I'll try. The words settle between them, fragile but real, like something that could shatter if either of them breathes too hard. Jimin doesn't move at first. He's afraid that if he does, if he says anything too quickly, Jungkook will take it back, will retreat again behind that wall he's been building piece by piece. So he just stands there, letting those two words echo in his chest, warm and terrifying all at once. Jungkook exhales slowly, as if he feels it too. This doesn't mean I suddenly know what I'm doing, he adds, quieter now. I don't. Not asking you to, Jimin replies gently. Their eyes meet again, and this time neither of them looks away. The rain outside has softened into a steady whisper, tapping lightly against the glass like a distant rhythm. The room feels different now, less suffocating, though the door is still locked, though everything between them is still uncertain. Jungkook glances toward the window, then back at Jimin. You always do this, he murmurs. What? Make it sound easier than it is, tilts his head slightly. Do I? Jungkook nods faintly, a small smile tugging at the corner of his lips despite himself. Yeah, there's no bitterness in it this time, just something softer, something tired. Jimin takes a careful step closer, closing the space that had reappeared between them. It's not easy, he says again, more quietly now. I just don't want us to keep pretending it's nothing. Jungkook watches him, studying every shift in his expression like he's trying to understand something that's always been just out of reach. We're really doing this? Jungkook asks. Jimin doesn't answer right away. Instead, he reaches out slowly, giving Jungkook enough time to pull away if he wants to. When he doesn't, Jimin's fingers brush lightly against his hand, warm and grounding. I think we already are, he says. Jungkook lets out a breath that sounds almost like a laugh, shaking his head slightly. You're unbelievable. You said that already. Yeah, well, Jungkook shrugs faintly, his fingers curling just a little around Jimin. I meant it more this time. The contact is small, but it feels like everything. For a moment, neither of them speaks. They just stand there, hands loosely intertwined, letting the quiet settle around them in a way that no longer feels suffocating. Jimin notices the way Jungkook's shoulders have finally dropped, the tension easing just enough to make him look lighter. Still unsure, still guarded, but here. You were really going to leave without saying anything, Jimin says after a while, his voice softer now, almost careful. Jungkook doesn't deny it. I thought it'd be easier, he admits. For who? For you. Huffs out a quiet breath, something between frustration and disbelief. You don't get to decide that for me. I know, Jungkook says, his gaze lowering briefly. I just didn't know how to stay without making things worse. You already said that. Yeah, but I mean it differently now. Studies him, sensing the shift. Then explain it to me, he says. Jungkook hesitates like he's sorting through thoughts that don't quite fit into words. When I'm around you, he starts slowly, everything feels louder, not in a bad way, just intense, like I can't ignore anything anymore. His fingers tighten slightly around Jimin's. It's easier to run than to deal with that. Jimin's expression softens. You think I don't feel that too? He asks quietly. Jungkook looks up again, surprised. Jimin gives a small, almost shy smile. You think I've been this calm the whole time? I've just had more time to get used to it. Lets out a soft breath, something in his chest loosening at that. Figures, he mutters. A small silence follows, but it's not empty. It's filled with the quiet understanding that's finally starting to form between them. Then Jungkook glances toward the door again. You're really serious about keeping that locked, huh? Jimin follows his gaze, then shrugs lightly. Do you want me to unlock it? Jungkook thinks about it, really thinks. His eyes linger on the door for a moment longer before shifting back to Jimin. Not yet, he says. Something warm flickers across Jimin's face, subtle but undeniable. Okay. The word is soft, but it carries more weight than anything else he's said tonight. Jungkook shifts his stance, moving just a little closer again until their shoulders nearly brush. The proximity feels different now, less like a collision, more like a choice. Can I ask you something? Jungkook says. You just did. Jungkook rolls his eyes slightly, a faint smile tugging at his lips. You know what I mean, hums in acknowledgement. Go ahead. Jungkook hesitates, then asks, "When did you realize it?" Jimin blinks. "Realize what? You know what?" There's a brief pause. Jimin looks away for a second as if replaying something in his mind. "I think I always knew," he says slowly. "I just didn't want to admit it." That doesn't answer the question, exhales softly. "Fine, do you remember that night on the rooftop, when it was freezing and you refused to go inside?" Jungkook frowned slightly, trying to recall. "The one where you kept complaining the whole time." "I was not complaining," Jimin protests lightly. "You definitely were." "Maybe a little," Jimin admits, a small smile breaking through. "But that's not the point." "Then what is?" Jimin's gaze softens as it returns to Jungkook. "The point is you took off your jacket and put it on me without saying anything, like it was the most natural thing in the world." His voice quiets, turning almost reflective. "And I remember thinking, this is dangerous." Jungkook's expression shifts, something unreadable flickering in his eyes. "Dangerous," he repeats. "Yeah," Jimin says. "Because it felt like something I wouldn't be able to walk away from." The room falls quiet again. Jungkook swallows, his grip on Jimin's hand tightening just slightly. "And you still didn't say anything?" he asks. Jimin shakes his head. "No, I thought if I ignored it, it would go away." Jungkook huffs out a soft laugh. "That never works. I know that now." Pause, then Jungkook asks more quietly this time, "Do you regret it?" Jimin doesn't hesitate. "No." The certainty in his voice makes something shift in Jungkook's expression again, something softer, more vulnerable. "Even after all this?" Jungkook presses. "Especially after all this." Jungkook looks at him for a long moment, like he's trying to memorize every detail, every nuance of his face. Then, slowly, he lifts his free hand. It hovers for a second, uncertain, before gently brushing against Jimin's cheek. The touch is light, careful, like he's afraid Jimin might disappear. Jimin leans into it without thinking, and that's when Jungkook's breath catches. "You're really serious about this," Jungkook murmurs. "I told you," Jimin whispers back. "I'd rather be terrified with you than safe without you." Jungkook closes his eyes briefly at that, his thumb brushing lightly against Jimin's skin. When he opens them again, there's still fear there, still uncertainty, but it's not the only thing anymore. "Then don't let me run," he says quietly. Jimin's heart stutters. "I won't," he promises. This time when Jungkook leans in, it's slower, intentional. Their lips meet again, softer than before but no less real. It's not desperate this time. It's searching, steady, like they're learning each other in a way they never allowed themselves to before. Jimin's hand slides up to rest against Jungkook's shoulder, grounding himself in the moment, while Jungkook's fingers curl slightly at the back of his neck, pulling him just a little closer. The world outside fades into nothing but distant rain and muted light. And for the first time, neither of them feels the need to pull away too soon. When they finally do, it's only to breathe, to look at each other again, still close, still here. Jungkook lets out a quiet breath, resting his forehead lightly against Jimin's. "I don't know what happens next," he admits. Jimin smiles faintly, his eyes soft. "Then we figure it out," he says. "Together, together." The word lingers between them, steady and certain. And this time it doesn't feel like something fragile. It feels like something that might actually last.
Together, the word settles deeper this time, no longer fragile, no longer something that might break if they hold it too tightly. It feels steady, not perfect, not certain, but real enough to stand on. Jungkook doesn't pull away. Instead, he exhales slowly, his forehead still resting against Jimin, as if grounding himself there. His fingers remain curled lightly at the back of Jimin's neck, warm and hesitant at once, like he's still learning what it means to stay. "I'm still scared," he admits quietly. Jimin nods, not even pretending otherwise. "Me too." Lets out a faint breath of laughter at that, the tension in his shoulders easing just a little more. "You don't look scared. I've had more practice hiding it." That earns him a soft huff from Jungkook. Figures, drifts in again, but it no longer feels heavy. It feels full, like there's too much to say and somehow they don't need to say all of it right now. Jimin is the first to move this time. Slowly, carefully, he pulls back just enough to look at Jungkook properly. There's still that uncertainty in Jungkook's eyes, that flicker of doubt that hasn't completely faded, but it's softer now, threaded with something warmer. "You said you didn't know how to stay," Jimin says, his voice gentle. Jungkook nods slightly. "Then start small," Jimin continues. "You're still here, that's enough for now." Jungkook considers that, his gaze drifting briefly toward the door again before returning to Jimin. "Yeah," he murmurs. "I guess it is." Watches him for a moment longer, then glances toward the lock. His fingers twitch slightly like he's debating something. "I can unlock it," he offers quietly. Jungkook's eyes follow the movement, the door, the way out, the choice. For a second, the room seems to hold its breath, then Jungkook shakes his head. "Not because I'm trapped," he says more firmly this time, "but because I don't want to leave." The difference is small, but it means everything. Jimin's chest tightens, something warm spreading through him at those words. He doesn't rush to respond, doesn't ruin the moment with something too big. He just nods once, understanding. Okay, quiet settles in. Jungkook shifts slightly, his hand slipping from the back of Jimin's neck to his shoulder, then down along his arm until their fingers find each other again, more naturally this time, less hesitant. Tell me something, Jungkook says after a moment. What? Something honest. Raises an eyebrow faintly. Haven't I been doing that all night? Jungkook gives him a look. You know what I mean. Hums softly, thinking, then his expression softens, just a little more vulnerable than before. I hate how easily you affect me, he admits. Jungkook blinks. That's your honest answer? Yes. Jungkook lets out a small laugh. That's not even that bad. It is when it feels like I lose control, Jimin says, quieter now. When one look from you can ruin my entire day or fix it. Jungkook's smile fades slightly, replaced by something more thoughtful. I didn't know that, he says. I know. Jungkook looks down at their hands, his thumb brushing absently against Jimin's knuckles. I think that's what scared me, tilts his head. What? That you could do the same thing to me. Admission is soft, but it lands hard. Jimin's breath catches slightly, his fingers tightening just a fraction around Jungkook's. You really are terrible at hiding things, Jimin murmurs. Jungkook scoffs lightly. Says the one who kept all of this bottled up for how long? Touché. They fall into a quieter rhythm after that, words coming easier, softer, less guarded. The tension that once filled the room has shifted into something warmer, still uncertain, still new but no longer suffocating. Jungkook glances around the room as if seeing it properly for the first time tonight. The dim light, the scattered shadows, the faint sound of rain still tapping gently outside. It's weird, he says. What is that this is happening here? Jungkook replies. Like everything just changed in one night, smiles faintly. It didn't change in one night, we just stopped pretending tonight. Jungkook considers that. Yeah, he says after a moment, that sounds more accurate. Studies him quietly, then asks, are you still planning to leave tomorrow? The question is careful, not demanding, just honest. Jungkook doesn't answer right away. He looks down again, then back up, his expression shifting as he thinks it through, not running from it this time, not avoiding it. I don't know, he admits finally. Jimin nods, accepting that. But Jungkook adds, his voice steadier now, I'm not leaving like that anymore. Like what? Without saying anything, Jungkook replies. Without giving you a choice or myself one. Jimin's lips press into a small, almost relieved smile. That's already better, Jungkook huffs softly. Bare minimum, still counts. Quiet moment passes, then Jungkook shifts closer again, not hesitating this time, not second-guessing. His hand lifts, brushing lightly against Jimin's cheek again, more familiar now. You really changed everything tonight, he murmurs. Jimin leans slightly into the touch, his eyes soft. So did you? Jungkook shakes his head faintly. I almost walked away. You didn't? Yeah, Jungkook exhales. I didn't. Their gazes lock again, something unspoken passing between them, something that doesn't need words anymore. Jungkook's hand lingers against Jimin's cheek, thumb brushing gently along his skin, slower this time, more certain. You're not going to regret this? Jungkook asks quietly. Jimin smiles, small but sure. No. Jungkook studies him for a second longer, as if searching for any sign of doubt. He doesn't find it. Okay, he says softly. This time when he leans in, there's no hesitation at all. The kiss is slower, deeper, built on something steadier than desperation. Jimin responds just as easily, his hand resting firmly against Jungkook's shoulder, anchoring them both in the moment. There's warmth in it now, trust slowly forming, something that feels less like falling and more like choosing. When they part, it's gradual, reluctant, their breath still mingling in the small space between them. Jungkook rests his forehead against Jimin again, closing his eyes briefly. Stay with me tonight, he says. It's not a command, not even quite a request, just something honest. Jimin doesn't hesitate. I will, no overthinking, no fear, just certainty. Jungkook nods slightly, like that answer settles something deep inside him. The rain outside fades into a soft murmur as the night stretches on, quieter now, calmer. And for once, neither of them feels like they're running out of time. They just stay exactly where they are. The night settles around them like a quiet promise. Jungkook doesn't let go. Even when the room grows still, even when the rain fades into nothing more than a distant whisper. His hand remains wrapped around Jimin's, as if he's afraid that if he loosens his grip, everything will slip back into uncertainty again. Jimin notices, of course he does. He shifts slightly closer, their shoulders brushing, then resting together more naturally this time. The tension that once filled every inch of space between them has softened into something warm, something steady. You should sit, Jimin murmurs after a while, his voice low, careful not to break whatever fragile calm they've built. Jungkook exhales softly, glancing around as if only now remembering where they are. The room feels different, smaller but not suffocating. Just quiet. Yeah, he agrees. They move together without really thinking about it, settling onto the edge of the bed. Their hands separate for only a second before finding each other again, almost instinctively. It makes something in Jimin's chest tight in a good way. You always do that, he says quietly. What? Come back. Jungkook's lips curve faintly, but there's something thoughtful in his expression. Maybe I never really left. Doesn't answer right away, because that feels too close to the truth. Instead, he leans back slightly, bracing himself on his hands, letting the silence stretch between them again. But it's no longer empty. It's filled with quiet understanding, with the soft rhythm of two people trying to learn each other all over again. Jungkook watches him, not the way he used to, quick glances, fleeting, careful. This time he lets himself look, really look, at the way Jimin's hair falls slightly out of place, at the faint crease between his brows that never fully disappears, at the softness in his eyes that he used to avoid because it made everything feel too real. You're starring, Jimin says, though there's no accusation in his voice. Jungkook doesn't look away. I know. That makes Jimin smile just a little. Why? Jungkook hesitates, like he's choosing his words carefully. Because I didn't let myself before. Honesty in that answer makes something shift again. Jimin's smile fades into something softer, something more vulnerable. And now, Jungkook's gaze lingers. Now I don't want to miss anything. The words settle deep, quieter than a confession, but just as powerful. Jimin looks away for a moment, not because he wants to, but because it's suddenly too much. Too real, too close to everything he's been holding back for so long. You're going to make this harder than it needs to be, he mutters. Jungkook lets out a soft breath of laughter. You said that to me earlier. I know, I'm taking it back. Shifts closer, their knees brushing now, the space between them disappearing again in the most natural way. You don't get to take it back, he says lightly. Jimin huffs, but there's no real protest in it. Watch me. For a moment it almost feels normal, like this isn't something fragile and new, like they haven't just crossed a line they can never uncross. It feels familiar in a way that's almost dangerous, like they've always been meant to end up here, they just took the longest way possible to get to it. Jungkook leans back slightly, propping himself up on one hand, still angled toward Jimin. Can I ask you something else? He says. Jimin glances at him. You've been asking a lot tonight. Yeah, well, I've been quiet for too long. That's true, Jimin admits. Jungkook studies him for a second, then asks if I hadn't stayed. Would you have come after me? The question is quiet, but it carries weight. Jimin doesn't answer immediately. He looks down at his hands, at the faint imprint of where Jungkook's fingers had been just moments ago, as if the memory of it is still there. I don't know, he says finally. Jungkook frowns slightly. That doesn't sound like you. Lets out a small, breathless laugh. I know. He looks back up, meeting Jungkook's gaze again. I want to say yes, he continues. I want to say I would have chased you, stopped you, done something dramatic. His lips curve faintly. But the truth is I was tired. Jungkook's expression softens. Tired of what? Waiting, Jimin answers simply. Waiting for you to notice, waiting for things to change, waiting for myself to be brave enough to say something. Honesty in his voice is quiet, but it cuts deep. Jungkook shifts closer again, more instinct than decision this time, his shoulder pressing lightly against Jimin's. You don't have to wait anymore, he says. Jimin lets out a slow breath. That depends. On what? On whether you stay. Jungkook doesn't respond right away. Instead, he turns slightly, facing Jimin more fully now, their proximity leaving no room for half-truths or easy escapes. I told you, Jungkook says quietly. I'll try. Studies him, searching for doubt. There is some, but there's also something stronger now, something that wasn't there before. That's enough, Jimin says after a moment, and he means it. Jungkook's shoulders relax just a little at that, like he's been holding onto something too tightly and is finally allowing himself to loosen his grip. Good, he murmurs. Another quiet falls over them, but this one feels softer than all the others. Jungkook glances toward the window where the faint glow of early morning is just beginning to creep in, barely noticeable, but they're all the same. We didn't sleep, he notes. Jimin follows his gaze, then smiles faintly. I don't think we were supposed to. Jungkook huffs softly. Yeah. Light shifts slightly, painting softer shadows across the room, across their faces. It feels like something is ending, but also like something else is just beginning. Jungkook turns back to Jimin, his expression quieter now, more settled. He says, Jungkook hesitates, then reaches out again, his fingers brushing gently against Jimin's wrist before sliding into his hand once more. Stay, he repeats, not just for the night this time. Jimin understands that. He feels it in the way Jungkook looks at him, in the way his grip tightens just slightly, like he's holding onto something he doesn't want to lose. Jimin's smile is small, but certain. I'm not going anywhere. This time it doesn't feel like a promise made out of fear. It feels like a choice.